there was a point where if you weren't from Brazil or the US, you didn't think you'd be able to get into the UFC. And what Conor's proven is not only can you get to the UFC, but you can actually change the game as we know it. I think he's probably going to look better than he's ever looked. I mean, that's the impression I've been getting all the way through his training camp, and how he's been conducting himself during fight week as well. He looks in great condition. He made weight comfortably. I just expect him to go from strength to strength. He has nothing else to focus on now other than being the best martial artist he can be, and that's clearly his driving factor. The mental approach as well has been very different this time around. Obviously, really respectful and stuff, kind of like he was against Cowboy. But I expect him to jump on Poirier quick. I expect him to try and catch him pretty cold at the start, and get that 60-second knockout that he's predicted.
Yeah, you're right. His approach has been very, very different in the build-up. He hasn't been as blasé, shall we say. What do you think's happened there mentally with him?
I think he knows that he's in a serious position to get the belt back. I mean, the situation is that he's going to get the belt back before he gets Khabib back, because even if McGregor's got the belt, it's going to take some convincing for Khabib to come back and take that rematch, just because he doesn't want to give McGregor the opportunity. So I think McGregor is looking at this division now and thinking seriously, he's probably top contender for the belt. If he beats Poirier this weekend, I mean, who are his other options? He's got Charles Oliveira is the most dangerous. You've got the potential winner of the co-main event in, Hooker and Chandler. You've got Gaethje kind of floating around there. Nate Diaz is rumored to be coming back. Although I would say Charles Oliveira is probably the better MMA fighter, as far as an all-round finisher. He might get caught cold by McGregor as well, just because he has that presence that does seem to put a lot of people in shock. So I think he's taking it dead serious, and I think he's looking at getting that belt back around his waist, and then trying to get a massive money fight either in the sport with Khabib or outside of the sport with Pacquiao, perhaps.
What do you think makes Conor such a must-see fighter? Obviously, he pretty much transcends the sport of MMA now, and he's a worldwide known figure. What do you think makes him such a must-see fighter?
I think it's the way that he handles the pressure, to be honest. I mean, I can see behind you've got a bunch of NFL stuff. And I had this realization watching Larry Fitzgerald with the Cardinals in the Super Bowl a few years ago. And the thing that was most amazing about him was the fact that he was able to just handle the pressure and of the occasion and still rise above everybody else as far as performance. And, it's one thing to do that in other sports, but when you do that in fight sports, even other athletes are watching thinking that's incredible. And that's what you get from Conor McGregor. You've got someone who absolutely commands the space better than anybody else. You've got someone that can put themselves out there confidently and then back it up. And there's a charisma to the guy. There's no doubt about it. As well as we get all the performance side of it and the big character that he is. He's also very real as well. I mean, he talks regularly about his upbringings and where he's from and what he's achieved, and how amazing it is. I think people can connect with him, even though he's living a very surreal life. He started in a position where a lot of people can relate to.
Absolutely, and let's hope he goes on for as long as Larry Fitzgerald there that you mentioned. There's longevity. Hopefully, he lasts for that long. So in terms of Conor, then obviously, he's, as we said, he's a huge name and he handles the pressure extremely well. What sort of an impact has that had in raising the profile of mixed martial arts on the whole?
Well, every now and then we get these special athletes that come along, and honestly, the first one really you've got to think was Royce Gracie. He was able to get people's attention from outside of the tiny circle that was martial arts at the time. And it's it's someone doing the unthinkable, someone that can rise above everybody else on the current competition platform and do it in a way that looks very easy. And that was what it was with Royce Gracie. He was the small, undersized guy that was able to strangle the life out of these big, strong wrestlers and these heavily muscled guys that look real dangerous. You had Ronda doing the same kind of thing, just completely taking the women's MMA by storm and absolutely wrecking ladies on the way. And a lot of young girls connected with that, which then, it brought in an audience from outside of the sport that wasn't paying attention before. Conor's he's just like that. He's one of those people that he's reaching, like, there was a point where if you weren't from Brazil or the US, you didn't think you'd be able to get into the UFC. And what Conor's proven is not only can you get to the UFC, but you can actually change the game as we know it. You know, he's given Conor the world that they could do something similar. That's what I mean. That's why it's so addictive to watch him and to pay attention. Is, you know, that you can feel that energy around him.
Absolutely, I agree with everything you just said there. He is he's so energetic and he just draws so many people in. And even though the last fight was only 40 seconds long, he still made such a buzz and everyone wants to watch it. And I think it'll be the same again. Let's get to the next fight then. What sort of fight are you expecting to see?
Well, honestly, I think it goes one of two ways. Like, if we go the Mystic Mac direction, Conor's probably not going to knock him out inside 90 seconds, because that's when Poirier is definitely most vulnerable. Like, he's a bit anxious in the early goings, and you know, we've seen him stung a couple of times in those early minutes. You know, McGregor, obviously, the last time they faced, Michael Johnson stopped him with inside sort of 90 seconds. I even think Gaethje caught him clean in the first couple of minutes and hurt him. He just seems a bit tense. And I think part of the reason that Conor's being very complimentary is because he's planning on, like, kind of reassuring him that it's going to be a slow-paced beginning and then he's going to try and jump on him and starch him quick. So I expect McGregor to try and do that. The only other outcome for me is that it becomes a long, drawn-out battle, and that's, for me, would be interesting, because that's when we get to see what McGregor's added to his game. You know, what's his condition like at 155? Does he have to lean on his grappling at all in this fight? Because the reality is Poirier doesn't generally, he's not very aggressive with his grappling. It's there if he needs it. Hence, he'll shoot a double if he feels like his combinations are coming to a point where they're not effective. And he's got that Darce choke as a counter. So, like, I think if it gets into a grappling situation, it's probably because McGregor's under pressure. And that's when we're looking late third, fourth, fifth round. So, you know, if it gets past the first couple of minutes, it gets closer and closer into Poirier's world. And I think it gets into a real scrap at that point. I mean, as much as everyone loves to see a flash knockout and a fancy finish, I would like to see McGregor in the trenches at 155 and really see him kind of earn that victory.
I think that's the intriguing part of this fight. I think everyone wants to see Conor go a little bit longer and see how he can cope with it. Obviously, his comeback was quite quick, so we still don't really know. I mean, obviously, he showed flashes of brilliance against Cowboy, but I think everyone would like to see it go a bit longer. If you had to pick, Dan, which way would you lean in this one?
I think the safest bet's McGregor. You know, he has got that X factor. There's no doubt about it. Like, McGregor commands the space so well, and Cowboy can kind of pull himself apart without the trash talk from his opponent. So just in the presence of McGregor, he's going to be shaky. And I did get that impression a bit from Poirier, especially because he was taken aback by the fact that McGregor was being so complimentary. Like, I think that might just keep him off guard, and McGregor's going to jump on him. I think, you know, Poirier's certainly got the potential to push McGregor, but he's got to get over that psychological hump. And that's the biggest question for me. I don't know as I've seen him do that. And I don't know whether you can prepare for that against anybody that's not McGregor.